history of the Ssangyong Musso in Australia. The Ssangyong Musso was first released in 1993 as a station wagon only, but it wasn't released in Australia until 3 years later in 1996, where both petrol and diesel versions of the station wagon were sold. It was only sold here for 2 years until 1998, and then pulled from the market. A dual cab ute version of the Musso, known as the Sports, not that there is anything sporty about it, was released in 2002. It was not released until 2004 on the Australian market. From then on, the ute was the only version of the Musso you could get in Australia, and it was sold until 2006. Yet again, only for 2 years. They were never a popular car, and not many of these first generation models remain on Australian roads today. Probably the best feature of the Musso is its motor, particularly the diesel 2.9 litre. While the Musso had a variety of different motors available in it, all of which were Mercedes motors built under licence by Ssangyong in South Korea. 3 of these were petrols, including the 2.3 litre 4-cylinder Mercedes M111 and the Mercedes M104 6-cylinder, which was available as either a 2.8 litre or a 3.2 litre. Then there were 2 diesel engines available too, the 2.3 litre Mercedes OM601 4-cylinder and the 2.9 litre Mercedes OM602 5-cylinder, which was basically an OM601 with an extra cylinder. Of these engines, only the 2.3 litre and the 3.2 litre petrols and the 2.9 litre diesel were sold on Australian spec cars. The ute in this video is fitted with the OM602, which is the only motor you could get in the ute models in Australia, whereas the station wagons had petrol options available too. The 2.9 litre OM602 was originally used in various Mercedes models, including the W201, the W124, the W210, the G-Wagen, the MB100, the Unimog and the Sprinter. It was also used on the Ssangyong Rexton and Corando too. It has been known as one of the most reliable and long-lasting diesel motors ever produced, with some of them lasting for over 1 million miles, which is about 1.6 million k's. Originally they were naturally aspirated and made 70 kilowatts and 192 newton meters of torque, but later they were fitted with a small turbocharger and an intercooler, and that boosted the power up to 88 kilowatts and 256 newton meters of torque. It uses mechanical injection with an inline fuel pump and indirect fuel injection, making it an ideal motor to run on alternative fuels like biodiesel. One of the few common problems with this motor is they have bad power steering pumps that lose the pulley off the front. This Musso is no different, hence why the power steering has been bypassed with a shorter belt until I get a new pump for it. The Musso was released in both 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive models, however station wagons were only sold as 4-wheel drives in Australia. They were all fitted with either a 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic. This trans was a similar trans to the one used in a lot of Ford Falcons, and even used the same filter kit. As for the car itself, it was a pretty basic car for its day, but it did get power windows all round, a driver's airbag and air conditioning. This car has also been fitted with an aftermarket stereo, CB radio and an aluminium rhubar. The Musso isn't the greatest car to drive because it's slow and doesn't handle the best, but it does have better suspension than most dual cab utes, having a torsion bar front and a coil rear end, something even most modern dual cab utes still don't have. I was recently in the current model Nissan Navara, which has a coil rear end, and the Musso seems to have a much nicer ride in my opinion. The Musso can also tow between 2.5 and 2.8 tonne legally, which is pretty good. The Musso was replaced by the Action in 2007, which was available as both a dual cab ute and an SUV. These came out with either a 2 litre turbo diesel or a 2.3 litre petrol. As with the Musso before it, the Action never sold well in Australia and was discontinued in 2005, and that's Action spelt ACTYON. A new model Musso was released in Australia in 2019, available as a ute only, and is still on sale now. It's still a pretty new car at the time of riding, only time will tell if they will become as reliable as the original Musso was. The current models have either a 2-litre turbo petrol or a 2.2-litre turbo diesel with an optional rear diff locker. As for the original Musso, they never sold particularly well back in the day and are a pretty uncommon sight on Australian roads these days, especially the wagons. One of the main reasons for the bad sales would have to be the name Ssangyong. No one ever knows what it is or how to pronounce it. I regularly get people thinking that it's something Chinese. The other reason for lack of sales would be the controversial styling, which looks similar to some Mercedes models of the era, and you could even say similar to the AU Falcon in the front, another car with unconventional styling that I'm personally a fan of. As for the Musso name, it means rhino in Korean. You can get these Mussos very cheap on the used car market these days. It's a good way to get into a reliable diesel for cheap. Parts can be pretty hard to find for these cars, and a lot I have to buy online. This is probably one of the biggest drawbacks with owning a Musso. However, due to using a Mercedes motor, a lot of the motor parts are able to be found online easily enough if you know what Merc models use the same motor. Okay, 0 to 60 mile an hour in Ssangyong Musso. This car is currently running on biodiesel, so it's not going to be completely accurate, and also the current speedometer doesn't work, so it's got a satellite one. So let's see what it does. My shifter ain't the best.